It's exactly 30 minutes past the hour. We're glad you've stayed with us. Welcome back to the program. This is the news desk right on KTN News. And we've seen the bulldozer bring down premises in the high and low end areas of Nairobi in the past few weeks, as well as this morning. The latest being today in Kileleshwa, a move aimed at reclaiming riparian zones. Joining us now to explore the intrigues in construction along such zones is Nashon Okoa, is the chairman of the Association of Construction Managers. He is at our CBD studios. But before that, let's listen into what some of those whose property were destroyed this morning had to say from Kileleshwa. We'll run some of the sound bites. Actually, we have them. Let's listen in.
Kubwa walivunja. Nikamwambia ndugu yangu, bona hii ulivunja kuna mali. Na hapa Java kuna mali. Unawasaidia kuwatolea mali yao na yetu ulifanya. Amesema mimi nafanya vile nataka. Na nitasaidia ya Java nitoe, siwezi vunja. Sasa kweli hiyo ni haki. Na hiyo ni pesa imevunjika. Kama ni kuvunja ivunjwe yote, vile mali yetu yaliharibika pia hii iharibike. Na wanamtolea mali, wanamtolea mali hata ndio tinga ya serikali inatoa fridge. Wanatumia tinga ya serikali fridge kutoa kila kitu.
I would like to give an input on what is happening here. It is unfortunate that a lot of economic loss has been incurred, but it is very unfortunate. The developer should have adhered to the environmental and physical planning laws. The environmental laws are very clear that nobody should build within 30 meters from the river, so that we conserve our rivers, we conserve our waters, we conserve our biodiversity.
Of course, those are pictures we've captured for you earlier this morning from Kileleshwa. Now in studio, once again, I have Mr. Nashon Okoa, who is the chairman of the Association of Construction Managers, joining us all the way from our CBD studios. Nashon, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. We've seen the complaints there by traders, owners of various buildings that were demolished early this morning. So the first question is, can this be avoided? What kind of advice will you give, developers or people who are planning to buy properties that might as well be on riparian land?
Thank you, Yusuf, for having me. Yes, this can be avoided if we all adhere to the set out regulations in constructions. I mean, there are clear regulations that are set out to guide a building that is next to a river or a water source. The issue is most of the developers disregard these regulations or look for shortcuts. And at the end of the day, you end up with what you see in Kileleshwa. But yes, this can be avoided.
This is a directive that was, made by the National Environmental Management Authority, that is NEMA. And I understand that before anyone develops a property or rather engages in any construction, they have to get clearance from NEMA. So the question is, are they reactive on this instead of being proactive with regards to NEMA, that is?
Yes, and that's a big problem we're having with NEMA and WARMA. They are very reactive because assuming you're a layman developer and you set out, because normally this approval of NEMA and WARMA, you normally get it from an EIA expert. You get someone to do the EIA report and submit to NEMA, and then give you the NEMA WARMA approval. So as a layman developer, if you get this approval, most of the time you are clear to build. But still, the issue comes in because most of the developers are also ignorant of what the law says, because the law requires a riparian between 6 to 30 meters. And when you build right on the river, so even if you get approval to build right to the river. If you are wise enough, you know very well that it's illegal. So, but the problem with the NEMA is they witness these buildings coming up. They wait for people to put the investments in all these things. People build beautiful buildings like what we saw today. And then years down the line, they come and say it's on the riparian. So I blame them to a large extent for allowing such structures to come up.
And then, apart from the demolition we saw this morning, that is in Kileleshwa, a lot of people were saying that is, or those are not just the only buildings that are on riparian land. How bad is the situation, especially in Nairobi? Are there other buildings that have been built along rivers?
Wow, it's in my assessment, it's bad. To be honest, it's quite bad. And I've said it before that NEMA and WARMA are actually assisting in destroying our environment. There are several buildings that on road reserve or on riparian land or too close to rivers. And I mean, some of the big names are out there. I don't want to mention them, but there are several. You go to, for example, on Riverside Drive, on the river down there, Kericho River. I mean, you see so many buildings, walls right on the river, and these buildings have approval. And the tragedy is some of these buildings are ongoing, and they have NEMA license and WARMA license clearly written on the construction boards. There are so many buildings. I'm just hoping that as they begin this exercise, they will not just stop where they are. I'm happy that they are now going to the what we call the suburb areas, but there are also quite several buildings that, if they are serious about what they're doing, they have to tackle them.
And I'm sure there are most developers, of course, you've already mentioned that there are a lot of buildings that are on riparian land in Nairobi, and I'm sure that those who are in panic and they might sell these buildings to unsuspecting, developers out there. What will you advise, once again, if somebody is a potential investor, not to, get into this kind of a trap?
Well, I think first we need to look at the NEMA Act, the MCA and the WARMA Act. I think the law left it, gave a too much gap to the officials to decide some of these things. I mean, a riparian land it's defined as a land between 6 meters and 30. And most of the time, this is left the interpretation of certain individuals to decide whether it is 6 meters, whether it is 30 meters. I think it's time we put it in law. If we have the rivers around, or the waterlands that are around us are well known, we need to decide that a certain river bank, it's either 6 meters or it is 15 or it's 30. So that when someone applies for NEMA, it's cast on tone that on this, the riparian land is 30. The problem is it's left for interpretation, and sometimes it's left to how big your pocket is to decide the depth of the riparian land given. And with that, I mean, some people buy it out, some people just don't get it right. We need to decide on that act and cut it on stone that this is the riparian, not a range of meters. Now, with that, we're going to see developers, because as I said earlier, most developers are laymen, and they get the EIS experts to decide on this. And once that is done, they assume that with the approval, everything's all right, and then you come back years down the line, and it's being demolished.
And National, I'm sure you'll agree with me that this also applies to land that are, potentially on road reserves, because we've seen a lot of property that are being also demolished left, right, and center. Properties that are said to be right on, areas that are meant for road reserves.